Hey, vinyl community, Jeff here again with a recent pickup and some other used stuff and a little story behind them. One of which may be, I don't know, you may say, what? Why would Jeff buy that? But he did. So let me start off with the little story here. Went down to, so my local store that I go to, there's a bunch of local stores, but there's one that I go to every record store day, the one I tell you about, we stand in line, everything. And I go there most often. They're one of my favorite stores. And I've mentioned this before, they show flip videos when they get in new stuff. Every couple of days they get in new stuff. They show flip videos of new restocks, new releases, new used stuff. Well, the other day they showed a video and they talked about how it was all the new releases. And so one of the new releases, I'm like, oh, I'm interesting to see that they got it. I wasn't sure they'd carry it. And I thought, well, I want to go get that. I'm going to buy from them rather than online because, you know, support local business and stuff. And so I had that in mind. And then they went through and they said, we just acquired, and I forget what they said, 250 or 300, a collection of 250 or 300 albums they purchased. But it was all mostly 90s rap and hip hop type stuff, Public Enemy and all that kind of stuff that I have no interest in. But there were some other miscellanies in there of the same ilk that were of, you know, other avenues. And so they're flipping, and I'm like, I got to have that. You got to have that. So we went down there over the weekend to get those two items, which I did get. So the first one was this new Skillet album, Revolution. I had this earmarked to get, probably going to buy it online. I wasn't sure if any of the local stores would get it. Skillets, you know, they're fairly popular, but not, and this is a different label, a smaller label. They're not on a bigger label anymore. So I just wasn't sure the distribution, how they'd get it, but they got it. And I'm like, I'm going to go get it from them. And again, you know, to support local business and the fact that I really wanted it, and there it is right there in my store, so I might as well get it now rather than order online. So yeah, if you're not familiar with Skillet, they are a Christian band, pretty heavy, you know, modern hard rockin', modern metallic sounding, you know, typical Breaking Benjamin type stuff. Bands along that line that you would hear in that. I heard a band. A band I heard, some band I heard not too long ago, and I said, wow, they sound a lot like Skillet. And I'm thinking, well, maybe Skillet is sounding a lot like them. But this is their most recent album that just came out. Like I said, it's on a smaller label, and so I wasn't sure how the distribution would go. It's a single album, but it is a gatefold. I've been a big fan, saw him live a couple times, been a big fan. Interviewed the singer and his wife. That's the singer and his wife. She's a guitar player. Interviewed them before in the past. Great people, great stuff. So I knew I was going to get that. That was definitely go down and get that. So my wife's like, yes, she likes Skillet. We got to go get the new Skillet album. Now the one that I saw in the box that I'm like, I got to get that. You may say, well, that's weird for Jeff to have. I mean, it's not totally weird, but anyway, I picked up the Jackson's Destiny. Now, why did Jeff pick up the Jackson's Destiny? It's the only album by the Jacksons I've ever owned in my entire life. And this goes back to a story that I've told before about how I found some records on somebody's curb. We used to go around, when I was kids, my best friend's father would go to garage sales. So we'd get up and go with him on Saturday. But he would also find stuff on people's curbs, and we'd go through it. And we found all kinds of good stuff. You know, one man's junk's another man's treasure. And one time we found some records. I picked up The Stranger by Billy Joel. Fell in love with that album back in the day. This was another one that was in one of those collections. So this is the only album by the Jacksons I owned ever, period, back in the day. And ever, period, aside from Michael Jackson. So, I mean, everybody's familiar with the Michael Jackson stuff, but this album always appealed to me. Shake Your Body Down to the Ground, and of course the big Blame It on the Boogie is the one that really got me. But Shake Your Body Down to the Ground, I guess, is one of the bigger hits that people are probably familiar with. Now, I did stop and decide, you know, I'm going to take a look. Because obviously growing up, I listened to the Jackson 5 on the radio and the singles and stuff like that. But Jackson 5 versus the Jacksons versus Michael Jackson. So I kind of wanted to get a timeline of what happened because I never really did. This is their 1978 album, I believe. I am right there. I'm going to say yes because the lighting is not telling me that. Yeah, I'm going to say 1978. So all the way up until, I believe it was 1975 or 76, it was the Jackson 5. And then in 75 or 76, I think it was 76, They put out the first album under the name The Jacksons, and then they had an album in 77, and had this album in 78. And then they had Triumph in 1980. Now, they had Triumph at the record store. And now that after I came home with this one, I went online and listened to that, and I thought, I should have bought that. It's almost just as good. And then, of course, they had the live album from 1981, and I said, I should have bought that. I should have bought all three, and if I go back and they have it, I'm going to get it. So then I'm like, okay, when did Michael Jackson do his thing? So Michael Jackson's Off the Wall, his first solo album was 1980. So that means he came out with Off the Wall and the Triumph album by the Jacksons in the same year. And then in 1981, when they did the live Jacksons album, there were some songs they played from Off the Wall, Michael's album. So there was a little overlay there. And then the band, I guess after that, after the 81 concert, there was nothing until 84 when they did the reunion, which I thought back in the day it had been a long time since the Jacksons got together, and that reunion was a big deal. But it was only a big deal in the sense that Michael had put out like 2 albums and become huge, and then he went back and did that, and he did the Pepsi commercial and the fire and all that stuff that happened back then. And that album I only occasionally see, but if I do see it, I guess I'll pick it up because it's not a bad album either. But yes, so Jeff likes the earlier Jackson stuff. And like I said, I grew up listening to Jackson 5, and so, but when Michael got of age and started sounding, this is mostly Michael singing, so it sounds just like a Michael Jackson album. So I'm just like, why have we not been listening to this more? I grabbed that. Those are the 2 things I got at the local store. Now, while I was there, again, just to get the Skillet and the Jackson album, I did flip through some of their other releases, and they also have a whole section of cutouts. There were a couple things in the cutout bin that, well, I didn't find anything major, but there was one in the Rocktober releases I totally forgot about. They had it right there, so I went ahead and grabbed the Iommi stuff. That was the, with Glenn Hughes. This is the Rocktober release that just recently came out. So they had it there. It was in a great price, and I thought, yeah, I wanted to get that. I had that on my list anyway. This interesting translucent black there. So I grabbed this one too. I do want to get the Fused album, and I thought that was one of the ones that was Rocktober, but it must have been this one. But I have the Fused album is available on vinyl. It's just a little more pricey. But yeah, this is Tony Iommi and Glenn Hughes classic album on vinyl for the first time, translucent black ice vinyl. So I went ahead and grabbed that one too, and that was kind of like, okay, unexpected, but needed to have that, so grab that one. Well, then we were out and about. We were going still around town. Same day, my wife's like, where else you want to go? And then she said, let's go to that store. It's a house that they have a lot of crafts and stuff. And then there's a record thing. She said, let's go there again. I want to check out some stuff. She wanted to check out some stuff. And she said, let's go there. We haven't been there in quite a few weeks. And so we did. And this is a store that just has, it's almost like one of those, not an antique mall, but it's like a, every people have different rooms and they put their wares in there. And it's a lot of handcrafted stuff. And everything from clothing to knickknacks to all kinds of just stuff. And then there's one room with records. So went up there, found Raised on Radio by Journey in great condition for a great price. Honestly, I'm like, my wife's like, well, what songs are on there? I'm like, the only one, Girl Can't Help It was a minor hit, but really not a ton that I know of hits that came out. And this was like, after the big days of what they were doing. So, but I thought, great shape, great price, ended up with my Journey collection that I want to get. So I grabbed that. I have listened to that and I'm like, yeah, there's not a ton of songs on there that I knew. So, this one I saw and I thought, okay, hey, cool. It was only $5. And then I read the small print that said Slightly Warped, and that's Alice Cooper's Zipper Catches Skin. Zipper Catches Skin? Yeah, Zipper Catches Skin. And again, the vinyl itself was all shiny and in great condition. The record itself was in great condition. And so I checked it out and I looked at it. And the warp, it's got a little cupping. It sticks up a little. But, so you flip it over, you press it down with the clamp, and it's fine. You play it the other way, and it's got a little bit of it's a slight warp. It does not affect play at all. I put it on, and it doesn't do any, there's no ripples or anything. It's just raised a little bit around the outer edge. When you play the one side, plays fine. Best $5 ever spent for our old Alice Cooper album that tends to always find these in really rough condition. This one's in great condition. The album's cover is in decent condition, and aside from the slight warp, it's in great condition. So I grabbed that, and then I'm flipping and I saw Derringer. This is the first Derringer album. Now, I'm not huge into Rick Derringer. Don't know a whole ton about him. I picked this up because it's got Vinny Appice on drums. He played with Rick at least on the first 2 albums, and now I'm kicking myself because a while back I think it's the second album. I saw the second album. It's got all 4 guys in the front, and I had it in my hand, and I flipped it, and I picked it, and I flipped it, and I just eventually put it down. I'm like, no, now I got this. Now I got to go find that because it's pretty much the same lineup, and of course I think it's still got Vinny on it and everything. So, but yeah, I just thought, well, this is cool. This is early Vinny stuff. He went on to do, of course, Black Sabbath and Dio and all kinds of other famous bands, including the Kill Devil Hill that I showed in a previous video not too long ago. So yeah, so I grabbed that, and again, it was cheap. It was like $5 or less. So, and it was in great condition, and I brought it home and I listened to it, and it sounds great. Just classic rock and roll from the 70s. Those are 76 or something like that, early 70s. Yeah, 76. Great stuff. And then later he went on to do the Rick Derringer solo type stuff. And funny, the same day I saw this, I saw the Rick Derringer album. Oh boy, I forget what one of the more popular ones. Got the green cover, something about something boy. Oh, I think there's a hit song on there. At the thrift store for $2, and I thought, wow, it could be a double Derringer day. But the album was just trashed. I'm like, I'm not buying that. But it could have been a double Derringer day, but it wasn't. So there you go. Just a couple cheap hole fillers, classic rock type stuff that we add to my collection. Fun day overall. Got my Jackson albums back, and yeah. So anyway, that's it for this one. I'll see you later. Rock on and rock hard.